let's get healed in 2020. I know that I am tired of having the runny nose and all the other things that go with allergies and colds and things like that. I may not be able to do much with colds, okay? Seasonal, whatever, okay? The way my body adjusts to the change in temperatures, things. But there are other things that I can do to unfold, uncover, rediscover, renew the wholeness that's in me. And Myrtle Fillmore discovered something. She calls it her discovery. And then she admits that, it may not be really a discovery, but it was new to her to realize this affirmation: I am a child of God and I do not inherit sickness. A statement as simple as that changed her entire orientation about her health. Now, Myrtle was, as she says in her book, Healing Letters, was a sickly lot. She says, I was an emaciated little woman, okay? And I had some of just about all the ailments that I could handle in one physical body. And she said that she grew up with this idea of how heredity controls what you experience in your life in terms of health. And she said the thing that she was taught to fear in those days was tuberculosis. Now, granted, she lived way back, okay? And tuberculosis was very difficult to cure in a lot of places because they didn't have the medicines necessary. And she had, as she said, a large variety of different ailments, some of which she said could only be taken care of through surgery. And when she met Charles, even though she describes herself this way, she was very active in her church, in society where she lived, okay? And she met Charles, and the two of them discovered that they had so much they had so many things in common, so many things that they were interested about. And it was a very natural coming together relationship with them. And Charles himself had some physical ailments. I believe he had a shortened leg, which troubled him quite a bit. And there were some other things in his own physical challenges. But the two of them married and then moved to Gunnison, Colorado, because at this time the gold rush was going on. So Charles was an adventurer, I would say, not only in this realm here, but spiritually as well. He studied a lot of things, explored a lot of things on his own, and he had several different businesses. And initially, he didn't take much interest in the spiritual adventures that his wife was entertaining. What happened was, things got really, really bad with Myrtle. And they were trying all kinds of things. They were going to psychic healers and spiritualists, and they were just moving about trying to find something that could help heal her. Okay. And they heard about Dr. E.B. Weeks, and that this person was teaching something called New Thought, though they didn't know what that was. But they had also heard that it was similar to science of mind and religious science. And a friend recommended that they go see this person because they thought this person had some ideas that might help Myrtle's healing. So they did. In, let's see, the year was 1886, one evening. They went to a lecture hall, where E.B. Weeks was speaking. And when the lecture was over, she shares that, well, Charles came out of the lecture and it was like he'd never been. But something happened in her as a result of what she heard at this meeting. There was a new dynamism in her. She was on fire because what jumped out at her in that entire lecture was, I am a child of God, and I do not inherit sickness. Prior to this, as you recall, she had been conditioned as a child. Her parents and her relatives thought of her as a weakling, sickly child, okay? And she took that role on. She accepted that role. And all of a sudden, this idea changed for her. She was able to let it go and drop it completely. Within an hour, her mindset had completely changed. And something was happening in her mind. And Charles was curious, but he didn't understand what was going on with her. She began reading New Thought material. She calls it practical Christianity. And she began practicing some of the teachings that she was reading. And she found that something was changing in her life. Now, she felt that healing was taking place. But there was, at that time, no real evidence, no real outward evidence that anything was changing. But she found a way to pray that connected her with what the doctor was talking about, this presence inside of her, this wholeness within. And she began reasoning with herself. Her thought was, well, worms have life within them, and people have life within them. Okay. Worms have some kind of intelligence. They respond to life. And so do people. Well, why is it that the life within people builds a certain body, and the life in worms creates a different kind of body? And she decided that it must have something to do with the fact that men, women, people are more intelligent. And from this, she began to get the idea that every aspect of her body is filled with this God life. And God life, she said, is intelligent. From here, she got the notion that she could speak to her body. She could communicate with her body. She could tell it what she wanted, what she expected from it. She could encourage the cells in her body to heal, to work in harmony with other aspects of her physical body. All because she realized that that presence of God dwells within. It was a revelation for her. She wrote, "It flashed upon me that I might talk to life in every part of my body and have it do what I wanted." She wrote, "I began to teach my body what I needed it to do, and I got marvelous results." Myrtle says, "I went to all the life centers in my body and I spoke to them words of truth, affirmative words, words of strength and of power. I asked their forgiveness for the times that I had condemned them and called them weak, ineffectual, diseased. I told the life in my liver that it was not torpid or inert, but full of the vigor and energy and intelligence of God. I told the life in my abdomen that it was no longer infested with ignorant thoughts of disease, put there by myself and the doctors working with me, but it was energized with the sweet, pure, wholesome life and energy of God. I told my arms and I told my legs that they were strong and active." She wrote, "I told my eyes that they didn't see of themselves, but they expressed the sight of spirit, and that they were drawing on unlimited source. I told them that they were young eyes. They were clear and bright because the light of God shone right through them. I told my heart that the pure love of Jesus flowed in and out through its beatings, and that the world felt the joy in my heart. I did not become discouraged at their being so slow to wake up. But I kept right on, she said, both silently and aloud. I kept declaring the truth that I learned, the truth that I was coming to understand about the perfect life of God indwelling me. And I kept doing it until my organs responded. I knew they heard me. I told them that they were free, unlimited spirit. I told them that they were no longer in bondage to the carnal mind, that they were not corruptible flesh, but centers expressing God life and God energy. And then I asked God to forgive me for taking its life into my organism and using it meanly. That's an interesting term. I promised that I would never, never, ever again retard the free flow of God's Spirit and life within me by using words that are negative and life-denying. But I would use true words and thoughts and help in the building up of my body temple. I would use all diligence, she said, and wisdom in telling it just what I wanted my body to do. I also saw that I was using the life of God in me to think and to speak words, and I became very watchful as to what I was actually thinking and saying. I chose not to let any worry or anxious thought in my mind. I stopped speaking gossipy, she says, frivolous, petulant, angry words. I let a little prayer go up every hour that the Christ would be with me and help me to think and speak only kind, loving, and true words. And when I was reading what Myrtle had said, I remembered that Jesus said that it's important for us to pay attention to the words that we use, even when we're speaking just to ourselves. In Matthew 15:11, Jesus said, "A man is not defiled by what enters the mouth, by what comes out of it." So in 2 years, Myrtle Fillmore was no longer an invalid, and Charles was taking an interest in this happening in his wife. And he began exploring the ideas that Myrtle was working with. This idea of affirming, stating what is true spiritually, and denying or taking away the power that she had been giving to negative thoughts and images about her physical body. And in the book, she explains that other people began to notice changes, and little by little, she was getting better and better and better and healthier. And Charles, who began working with the ideas, began noticing his health improving as well. They had a lot of other problems, and at one point they were so financially strapped that they couldn't feed their family. Well, as they were working on healing, the healing of their finances began to take place as well. Things were beginning to happen with their little group of students who got together to study these ideas with the Fillmores. And Myrtle wrote, "I want everyone to know about this beautiful law and how to use it. It is not a new discovery, but when you begin to use it, you feel new." As she became well, many did come to know about it. For her neighbors who knew that she had been sick wanted to know what she was doing and how she was getting better, how she was healing. And so they came to her. And Myrtle was happy to share with them the way that she was praying, this new affirmative way of praying, and this denial of energy to what is negative, to her prior negative thinking about her own body. She told them of her experience with prayer. And to all of them, she gave the same response. She said, "You are God's beloved child. And God's will for you is only good. That is health and wholeness, as well as all the other forms of good that you can conceive of." She told them the healing power of the Christ is in them, and that they too could have perfect wholeness by realizing this truth. This revelation is what we're going to work with during the next talks on healing. It's the revelation that Jesus shared with those who came to him for healing. Remember, he always said things like, "Your faith has made you whole. According to your belief, so it is unto you." And my favorite healing one, that's the man who was paralyzed. And Jesus saying to him, "Do you want to be healed? Do you want to be healed?" Knowing that sometimes we are challenged so long with something that we get used to it, we get comfortable with it, okay? And we fear breaking out and making a change. It may be horrible, okay? We may be in an awful relationship, okay? The job may be something we hate to go to, okay? But we know it, and we fear the unknown, okay? Healing takes place on all of these levels of life. Remember that wholeness is this harmony within us where we're no longer blocking this flow of God, of good in our lives. And healing is what we need to do to remove the blockages to that flow. So healing can take place in any level, in any experience that we are having. I am a child of God, and therefore I do not inherit sickness. And you can use that statement in a variety of ways. For example, problems on the job with coworkers. I am a child of God, and disharmony on my job melts away when I allow this flow to take place within me. Over time, her healing was complete. And Charles still had a couple of things to be worked out with his physical health, but there was improvement in his life as well. And their financial situation improved, and there was, of course, the birth of a whole new spiritual movement called practical, positive, progressive Christianity, or, in a word, unity. So in just a moment, I'll be leading you through a healing process based on the ideas that Myrtle used for her own healing. So I invite you now to sit back, and we're going to move into this meditation. If you like, you're welcome to close your eyes. Become aware of your breathing. Allow yourself to breathe easily. Inhale and exhale. And as you do that, imagine that you are letting go whatever has been on your mind, whatever has been troubling you, whatever has been causing you to have fearful thoughts. Letting go of the arguments on the job. Letting go of feelings of lack and limitation in your life, because right now, in this moment, you are free. You are the perfect expression of God. Right here, right now. This God presence, this life of God in you moves. And you live and move and have your being in it. You are a child of God, and you do not inherit sickness. You do not inherit anger or fear or resentment or guilt or shame. Myrtle claimed her birthright when she realized that she was a child of God, and we can claim our birthright. Whenever we feel that we have allowed the negativity to seep in, and it is affecting our peace of mind, our sense of order, harmony in our lives. So think for a moment of something you're being challenged with. And in your own mind and heart, I invite you to affirm for that challenging experience. I am a child of God. I do not inherit. And you fill in the spot. I do not inherit disharmony. Judgment. I do not inherit lack or limitation. Breathe that in. Let it be a part of your cells, muscles, and nerves. Even as Myrtle breathed in the awareness that she was working with for healing. I am a child of God, and I do not inherit. Instead, I am filled with the life, the love, the peace, the joy, the ability to succeed, the love that is God in me. And I look for ways to express this and share it with others in my world. And as you breathe this in deeply, allow yourself to feel a sense of appreciation. Give thanks for knowing the truth of who and what you are. And we do give thanks for this awareness. Thank you, God. Amen. When you're ready, I invite you to open your eyes and become aware of time and space here.